Hi guys, it's Lisa from Recreated Designs and I am back with another DIY tip of the day. And today we're going to be talking about how to get a smooth finish with Annie Sloan Chalk Paint. So you've got your Annie Sloan Chalk Paint, and something that I hear a lot is how to get a smooth finish, because sometimes you want to use this paint because it adheres to anything, but it is hard to get a smooth finish because of the chalky nature of the paint. There's no latex or acrylic in the original Annie Sloan Chalk Paint, so that's why you get more of a textured finish. So I'm going to give you 3 tips today on how to get that smooth, buttery finish that people are looking for, especially if you're painting some modern furniture or you don't like the antique look. So we've got our Annie Sloan Chalk Paint, and I've got 2 pieces of wood here. So what I'm going to show you is how to get that texture. 3 little tips to do. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take a natural bristle brush, and I am just going to use some of my old ochre here. Just give it a swirl, and I'm just going to paint this on. And this one I'm going to use to show you later the difference in what we're doing and how a smooth finish is going to look. Okay, so we are just going to paint this on, and I'm going to leave that to dry. So we'll leave that over there. Now, to get a smooth finish, the first thing I would recommend is, instead of using a natural bristle brush, use the synthetic brush. So natural bristles are perfect if you watched my brush video for holding paint, but the natural bristles, because they're uneven, will always give you more texture no matter what paint you're using. So the first thing we're going to do is swap out our natural bristle for a synthetic bristle. Synthetic bristles are super smooth, so the first thing you want to do is swap out your brush. The second thing we're going to want to do with Annie Sloan, because there's no latex or acrylic, you can thin it down. So we're going to thin it down with just a little bit of water. Now, if you're going to thin down your paint with water, your Annie Sloan Chalk Paint, never put the water into your tin. The water will contaminate the paint and your tin will rust and the paint will get mold on it. So you want to keep it, if you're going to water it down, pour a little bit into a separate container. So I'm just going to pour a little bit in here. Okay, and I'm going to set my paint aside. So I've just got a little bit in a glass jar here. Wipe that off. And then I'm going to use the water in this container. So I'm never going to put this paint back into my original can now that I'm using water. So I've got some just natural tap water here, my paint, and my synthetic brush. So I'm actually going to dip my brush, can you see that? Just dip it into the water, and then I'm going to dip it into the paint. So I'm getting some of that water on the bristles, I'm getting some water in the paint, and then I'm going to paint it on here. You can mix a little bit in if you need to, if you want to get it mixed a little better, but you don't have to. You can just dip your brush into the water. So I'm going to do this here. I'm going to paint this along. So that is using a synthetic brush and some water. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let those dry for a minute, and I will be back in just a minute to show you the next tip on how to get a smooth finish with the Annie Sloan. Okay, now that the first layer of paint is dry on my boards, I'm going to put a second coat on, and I'm going to use the full-on paint with my natural bristle brush for the one that we didn't do anything to, and I'm going to just put a second coat of paint on here. And I'm going to let that one dry, and I'm going to do the same to this one. But before I do, and this would actually work too if you forget, if you put your first coat of Annie Sloan on and then you realize, ooh, it's got more texture than you want, you can also do this between layers and it will help with that as well. So the third thing you can do besides using your synthetic brush, adding a little water, is to use a very fine grit sandpaper in between your coats. So what that's going to do, you want to go very lightly, but it's just going to knock the edges, the ridges off any of that texture. So I'm just going to run it along and just take off any texture. You can see I didn't sand down, I didn't sand through the paint, just taking off those extra little bits. So I'm just going to brush the sand off, and then I'm going to give this another coat of paint the same way. So I already have some water on this brush and in the paint, so I'm just going to paint a second one. If it feels a little too dry, I can add some more water. And I'm just going to paint a second coat on here. There we go. So we're going to let those dry again, and I'll show you the result in just a minute. Okay, so my boards are dry now. We've got 2 coats of paint on it, and I can clearly see, I know it's going to be a bit hard for you to see yet, but this one is the one with the synthetic brush and water. This is the one with the natural bristle brush. So the last thing I'm going to do is again take my sandpaper, and like the time before, just give it a very light sand. That's all I'm going to do. It's just in case there are any little high points on that. So to make it a little easier for you to see, I'm actually going to use some wax, and I'm going to apply the wax to both of them so that you can see the ridges, to see how much of a difference there really is. So I'm going to take some clear wax and just put a coat. Now normally if I was doing a piece of furniture, you would let that wait before you put your wax on, but I'm going to go ahead and do it right now so you can see the difference in these. Okay, so we've got our clear wax on that. We're going to put some clear wax on this one. Put some antiquing wax just so you can see the difference in the ridges of those two things and how smooth this one is compared to this one. So I'm going to take a little bit of antiquing wax, and this is just a brown wax. Get the fluff off, and you can see if I draw that along, there are no ridges. It's not getting caught up anywhere. It's just going on smooth, smooth, smooth. This board is super, super smooth. I wish you could feel it because it is literally buttery smooth on this one. And then on this one, I'm going to use the same dark wax, and I'm going to show you, this will show you some of those ridges in this one. See if you can see some of that. So can you see the texture coming through there? There's some texture. I'll take some photos to show you as well. But you can see there's all kinds of texture in here that the natural bristle brush created. So there are the two that you can see. So there you go. So that's how you get a super smooth finish with Annie Sloan Chalk Paint. Don't be afraid if you don't like texture and you don't want all of the ridges in there. There is a way, and it's super easy to get it smooth. Again, you just want to choose a synthetic brush over a natural bristle. Put some paint aside and add a little water, or dip your brush in water, and then just give it a light sand between coats with a super fine sandpaper. There you go. You'll never have to wonder again, and you can get that super smooth look that you're looking for. If you have any other questions, you are always welcome to leave them below. And if you ever need help with your projects, I do offer project consultations, and you can find all of the information over at recreateddesigns.com. Thank you, and I will see you again soon with another DIY tip of the day.